There are places on Earth where the wind moves differently. It passes through empty stone corridors, over buried cities, across abandoned temples and crumbling walls that once echoed with life. These places are not myths. They are not legends. They were civilizations. Thriving societies with architecture, culture, trade, belief systems, and power. And then, without clear warning, they vanished. No conclusive invasion. No recorded plague. No definitive collapse. Just absence. Tonight, we explore civilizations that disappeared without explanation, leaving behind questions that modern science still struggles to answer. We begin in Central America, in the dense jungles once ruled by the Maya. For centuries, the classic Maya civilization flourished across what is now Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. They built monumental cities like Tikal and Copan, developed complex calendars, advanced mathematics including the concept of zero, and erected towering pyramids aligned with celestial movements. At their height, millions lived across an interconnected network of city-states. Then, around the 8th and 9th centuries, something happened. Major cities in the southern lowlands were abruptly abandoned. Monuments stopped being erected. Construction halted. The population declined dramatically. No single invading army is recorded. No mass graves indicate catastrophic war. Drought is one theory. Internal conflict is another. But the scale and rapidity of abandonment remain unsettling. A civilization that mastered astronomy seemingly could not foresee its own end. Further north, in what is now the American Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans built elaborate cliff dwellings carved into canyon walls. At Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon, multi-story stone structures housed hundreds. Their road systems extended for miles. Their culture was organized, spiritual, and deeply tied to the land. And yet, around the late 1200s, these communities were vacated. Entire settlements were emptied. Archaeologists see signs of prolonged drought, social stress, and resource depletion. But again, no singular event explains the coordinated withdrawal. Where did they go? Oral histories of descendant tribes speak of migrations, but the silence of the ruins tells another story. Something shifted so profoundly that staying was no longer possible. Travel east across the Atlantic to the Mediterranean island of Crete, and we encounter the Minoans. Flourishing around 2000 BCE, they constructed palatial complexes like Knossos, with advanced plumbing, art, and maritime trade networks that stretched across the Aegean. They were sophisticated, cosmopolitan, and economically powerful. Then, around 1450 BCE, their dominance collapsed. Some suggest the volcanic eruption of Thera devastated their ports and trade routes. Others argue Mycenaean Greeks invaded and absorbed them. Yet no complete consensus exists. What remains are frescoes of bull leapers and goddesses, frozen in color, witnesses to a society that faded into myth. Move to the Indus Valley, one of the great cradles of civilization. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa in present-day Pakistan and India displayed urban planning that rivaled ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Grid-based streets, sophisticated drainage systems, standardized weights, and a script that remains undeciphered. Around 1900 BCE, urban life declined. Cities were gradually abandoned. Theories range from climate change and river shifts to economic collapse. But there is no clear evidence of conquest, no dramatic destruction layer, no obvious final catastrophe. The people dispersed, assimilated, or moved on, but their written language remains silent, refusing to tell us why. Then there is the mysterious case of the Nabateans, builders of Petra. Carving monumental facades into rose-colored cliffs, they controlled vital trade routes across Arabia. Their wealth came from incense and spice trade, their engineering allowed water to flow through desert rock. When the Roman Empire annexed their kingdom in 106 CE, Petra did not immediately collapse. But over time, it declined and was largely forgotten by the outside world. Earthquakes, trade shifts, political absorption, each may have contributed. Still, Petra stands as a symbol of a people whose prominence dissolved without a dramatic end. Across the Pacific lies one of the most haunting examples, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. The giant stone moai statues gaze inland, silent and imposing. The society that created them developed in isolation, constructing hundreds of massive figures transported across rugged terrain. By the time Europeans arrived in the 18th century, the population had dramatically declined. Theories abound: deforestation leading to ecological collapse, internal warfare, resource depletion. Yet the full picture remains debated. Did they destroy their own ecosystem? Were they victims of disease and slave raids after contact? Or was their decline more gradual and complex than simplified narratives suggest? In Southeast Asia, the Khmer Empire built Angkor, a vast urban complex centered around Angkor Wat. In the 12th century, it was one of the largest cities in the world, sustained by an intricate hydraulic system of reservoirs and canals. Then, by the 15th century, Angkor was largely abandoned. Environmental strain, climate variability, political conflict, all plausible. But the sheer scale of its infrastructure suggests a sophisticated society capable of adaptation. And yet, something destabilized it beyond repair. What links these vanished civilizations is not simply their disappearance. It is the ambiguity. Modern historians prefer layered explanations: climate shifts combined with political fragmentation, economic stress compounded by environmental strain. Rarely is collapse singular. But ambiguity leaves space for imagination. It invites deeper questions. Were ancient societies more fragile than we assume? Or are we underestimating the complexity of their decline? Perhaps what unsettles us most is the mirror these stories hold up to our own civilization. We assume permanence. We trust our technology, our data, our institutions. Yet the Maya were masters of astronomical cycles. The Indus Valley engineered sanitation systems thousands of years before modern plumbing. The Khmer manipulated water systems on a continental scale. They were not primitive. They were not ignorant. They were advanced within their context. And still, they fell. Archaeology often uncovers subtle warnings embedded in ruins. Pollen samples revealing drought cycles. Tree rings indicating prolonged climate stress. Shifts in construction quality suggesting economic strain. Evidence of fortifications implying rising conflict. Collapse rarely arrives overnight. It accumulates. It erodes resilience. It tests systems slowly until they fail. But even with data, mysteries remain. Why were some cities abandoned while neighboring regions survived? Why did trade networks fail to stabilize economies? Why did belief systems shift at critical moments? We may never have singular answers. Civilizations are not machines with a single breaking point. They are living systems, social, ecological, political organisms. And perhaps that is the most profound lesson. Disappearance does not require explosion or apocalypse. It can be quiet, gradual, a slow unraveling masked by normalcy until, one day, the center no longer holds. Standing among these ruins, one feels time differently. Stone outlasts memory. Structures endure longer than language. But even stone erodes. What remains are fragments, walls, pottery, statues, undeciphered scripts. They whisper questions into the present. Civilizations that vanished without explanation remind us that permanence is an illusion. Power can dissolve. Knowledge can be lost. Cities can empty. And future archaeologists may one day sift through our own remnants, debating the causes of our transformation. Was it climate? Was it conflict? Was it economic overreach? Or something subtler, a gradual forgetting of balance? History does not promise stability. It promises cycles. And somewhere beneath the jungle canopy, beneath desert sands, beneath ocean tides, more ruins wait to be uncovered. More stories remain buried. More civilizations may yet emerge from silence to challenge what we think we know about collapse. The question is not only how they vanished. The deeper question is whether we are paying attention. History does not promise stability. It promises cycles. And somewhere beneath the jungle canopy, beneath desert sands, beneath ocean tides, more ruins wait to be uncovered. More stories remain buried. More civilizations may yet emerge from silence to challenge what we think we know about collapse. The question is not only how they vanished. The deeper question is whether we are paying attention. If you're fascinated by the mysteries history leaves behind and the patterns hidden beneath civilizations' rise and fall, subscribe to Universal Explorer and join this journey into the unknown. Leave a comment below with which lost civilization you believe holds the greatest unanswered secret, and share this episode with someone who loves uncovering the truths buried by time. The past is not dead, it is waiting to be understood.